The 20th century was a turning point in the art world. The sense of artistic normalcy that the generations before had enforced was beginning to be left behind by a new age of artists, the Modernists. In this video, we will explore the history and relevance behind the Modernist art movement. Bauhaus, Cubism, and Expressionism left many changes in their wake that would forever impact the world. Bauhaus, Cubism, and Expressionism are not only intertwined artistically, but are also connected by the values that modern artists hold dear. First, let's dive into the history of Bauhaus. The name is a combination of the German words for building, Bau, and house, and may have been intended to evoke the idea of a guild or fraternity working to build a new society. The Bauhaus was a school in Germany operational between the late 1910s and early 1930s. Opened in the city of Weimar by German architect Walter Gropius, the Bauhaus's core objective was to reimagine the material world to reflect the unity of all arts. The school was notorious for combining crafts and fine arts to produce a whole new style of arts, including architecture and furniture design. As Walter Gropius once said, "So let us then create a new guild of craftsmen, free of the divisive class pretensions that attempted to raise an arrogant barrier between craftsmen and artists. Let us together will, conceive, and create the new building of the future, which will unite everything in a single form, architecture and sculpture and painting, and which will one day rise heavenwards from the hands of a million craftsmen as a crystalline symbol of a new and coming faith." Many notable artists of the time joined the school's faculty: Wassily Kandinsky, Joseph Albers, and Miles van der Rohe, to name a few. The Bauhaus fell not long after its founding at the hands of the Nazis in 1933. Following the decision to permanently close the school, Miles van der Rohe, Gropius, Albers, and many others within the Bauhaus school fled to the United States, where they continued to have a profound and lasting influence on 20th century art and design. As for the design itself, Bauhaus is minimal, has geometric shapes, is abstract, angular, and has little ornamentation. It champions little sentiment or emotion and no historical nods to create a sleek, undetailed design. Bauhaus is one of the most influential styles of art to date. Even major brands such as Apple embrace the sleek, minimalist shapes and colors that the style has to offer. Bauhaus is not only one of the most popular types of interior design, but also is a rapidly growing favorite of house design. Now let's talk about Cubism. It was created by Pablo Picasso and Georges Braque in Paris between 1907 and 1914. The French art critic Louis Vassellet coined the term Cubism after seeing the landscapes Braque had painted in 1908 at La Estate in emulation of Cézanne. The Cubist painters rejected the inherited concept that art should copy nature, or that artists should adopt the traditional techniques of perspective, modeling, and foreshortening. They wanted instead to emphasize the two-dimensionality of the canvas. So, they reduced and fractured objects into geometric forms, and then realigned these within a shallow, relief-like space. They also used multiple or contrasting vantage points. In their work from this period, Picasso and Braque frequently combined the representational motifs with letters. Their favorite motifs were still lifes with musical instruments, bottles, pitchers, glasses, newspapers, playing cards, and the human face and figure. Landscapes were rare. The Cubists wanted to show the whole structure of objects in their paintings without using techniques such as perspective or graded shading to make them look realistic. They wanted to show things as they really are, not just to show what they look like. Cubism opened up almost infinite new possibilities for the treatment of visual reality in art and was the starting point for many later abstract styles. When we think of Cubism, we associate it with the application of multiple perspectives, the use of geometric shapes, a monochromatic color palette, and a flattened picture plane. The last modernist art movement we'll analyze is Expressionism. Expressionism began in Northern Europe at the beginning of the 20th century. It initially began as a style of poetry, music, and theater, but later bled into a whole new vein of art, including painting, sculpture, and drawing. The popularity of Expressionism increased when Antonin Maciejczak coined the term in 1910. With this word, the Czech art historian intended to denote the opposite of Impressionism and indicate one of the main currents of art that expresses highly subjective, personal, and spontaneous self-expression typical of a wide range of modern artists. Whereas the Impressionists sought to express the majesty of nature in the human form through paint, the Expressionists, according to Maciejczak, sought to express their feelings about what they saw. Expressionism first emerged in 1905 when a group of 4 German students guided by Ernst Ludwig Kirchner founded the Die Brücke group in the city of Dresden. A few years later, in 1911, a like-minded group of young artists formed the Der Blue Rider in Munich. Kandinsky and Franz Marc were its founders, while Pulst Klee and August Macke were among its members. These two groups became the foundation of the German Expressionism movement. Since then, Expressionism has become a widely recognized form of modern art. In Expressionism, the artist seeks to depict not objective reality, but rather the subjective emotions and responses that objects and events arouse within a person. Expressionism widely contributed to the modern art movement by introducing the art world to distorted pieces of art that invoked intense emotions in the viewer. This forever changed the meaning of art and normalized incorporating the artist's feelings into the piece. Expressionism provided artists with the tools that they needed to speak up about social issues and, along with their distorted images, help evoke emotions and ideas within others. In Expressionist art, color in particular can be highly intense and non-naturalistic. Brushwork is typically free, and paint application tends to be generous and highly textured. They use jagged, distorted lines, rough, rapid brushwork, and jarring colors to depict urban street scenes and other contemporary subjects in crowded, agitated compositions notable for their instability and their emotionally charged atmosphere. Now you may be wondering, besides the fact that these are all modernist art styles, how are they connected? All these movements are connected by the introduction of new ideas into the art world. Gone were the values and norms of the past. Modernist artists pushed the boundaries of their craft and in turn created a whole new community that would forever change the world. They embraced the new and exciting changes that came with the 20th century, and with that, experimented with new styles and beliefs. One of these beliefs that the modernists embraced was that detail was a thing of the past. Since realism was becoming less and less popular, detail went with it. Detail and realism go hand in hand, and this is seen in many past art movements such as the Renaissance. With a new generation of artists hoping to break free of the confines of the art world, they chose to leave the ornamentation of their predecessors in the dust. Historically, having the financial ability to be as decorated as possible was a true sign of wealth. We can see examples of this in ancient Asia, medieval Europe, and even as recent as the Victorian era. Houses, clothing, and interior design were adorned with small details, elegant framework, and patterned fabrics up until the modernist movement. In the past century, we can see a definite shift to the more minimalist way of life. Today, when we imagine wealthy people, we think of sleek modern houses, clean-cut clothing, and abstract furniture and art pieces. That being said, some people did not take the shift to minimalism lightly and did not go down quietly. Critics did not consider modernism art because of its non-traditional subject matter and techniques. Similarly, many modernists used their art to express their beliefs and to make political statements, for example, Pablo Picasso's Les Demoiselles d'Avignon. This piece represented Picasso's intense fear of contracting an STI from the workers at the brothels he frequented. The large oil painting from 1907 was a new expression for the artist, a form of key proto-Cubist work. Unveiled in 1916, the depiction of 5 nude prostitutes was too progressive for many viewers, even Henri Matisse, a famous impressionist, calling it hideous. Bauhaus, Cubism, and Expressionism are all different in their own right, each with a distinct style and intention behind it. Despite the differences in style, they're all connected by the introduction of modern values and a definite shift away from the artistic choices of their predecessors. The 20th century was a new and changing world for people across all walks of life. Artists took risks and experimented in ways that were outlandish to the art community, but nevertheless were inspiring to generations of artists to come.